92.1 is WVLT Vineland, serving the Delaware Valley with the best music and the best talk.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program not necessarily reflect that of radio station WVLT, Clear Communications Incorporated, its staff and management, or our sponsors. WVLT, Clear Communications Incorporated, retains the right to record all phone calls received during this program for future promotions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steven Solof, and this is the Inform the Vote NJ radio hour here on Cruisin' 92.1 WVLT in Vineland. As we turn the page from one election cycle to the next, tonight marks the official start of what I'm calling the fresh start phase for politics related to Cumberland County and for Inform the Vote NJ's coverage of it. Campaign seasons can get messy. Strategies, alliances, and timing all start mixing together, and sometimes the substance gets lost in the shuffle. And everyone involved can formulate all kinds of opinions of what fair press coverage should look like. So let tonight serve as a professional shot across the bow to everyone prepping for campaigns in 2026. The time to communicate with press-related outlets and voter information projects like this one is now. To put it briefly in a way that summarizes a lot of my public comments at government meetings, hi, Inform the Vote NJ exists. You have plenty of time to communicate. If you plan on creating campaign materials, just send it over when it's ready so I can post it on the site. While you certainly don't have to create content through my platform, I offer press-related services to help. That being said, if a lack of communication or questionable methods of participation are employed, they will be noticed, as press relations are a normal part of campaigns. For primary candidates, you've got about 7 months to establish communication lines, share your materials, and/or sit down for a professional interview. For nonpartisan races or general election candidates who are likely to coast through the primary season, you've got roughly 11 months. Let's take a quick look at what's coming down the pike to hammer home the point as to why early communication matters. Off the top of my head, the U.S. Senate, Congress, County Commissioner, Sheriff, Lawrence Township Committee, and various school board races will be happening. That means that on my own ballot, I can already project roughly 25 candidates across the combined races, and potential coverage for other races in the region, which is not just overwhelming for the average voter, but also has press coverage concerns, such as this radio hour having about one slot for each candidate between now and the primary. And if everyone books a follow-up during the general election season, that roughly leads up to next November with some wiggle room thrown in. Both parties have almost certainly begun floating around names and challengers, and I have 2 or 3 interviews for the primary already booked. So it's not totally unreasonable for me to start pressing now. But that coverage depends on candidates and campaigns responding promptly to questionnaires, sending verifiable information, and agreeing to interviews in a timely fashion. Which brings us to tonight's guest. Colonel G.R. Tomaini reached out to me over the summer to announce his intention to run for the U.S. Senate seat currently held by Cory Booker. At that time, I was focused on finishing this year's coverage, so I sent him my standard questionnaire and told him we'd connect once the election wrapped up. True to that plan, we're doing exactly that, starting early and starting right. Now, not to be too harsh on Mr. Tomaini, but rather to just help set the tone for how my coverage is developing as I learn the local political landscape, Mr. Tomaini only returned his questionnaire this morning. The sooner I have information, the better I can prepare, fact-check, and potentially ask better questions that actually inform voters. I do notice things like communication timelines and include them in my coverage. There are lots of nuances I notice while doing my outreach, which helps the average person who does not normally see those kinds of things. I somewhat subjectively convey those details to my listeners because how candidates interact with press middlemen serve as potential indicators for how they might communicate in the role they seek. That being said, Mr. Tomaini is still way ahead of the curve in terms of starting early and corresponding. future interviews and communications with him are very much possible, which is why I believe him showing up for today is a very strong move. So, who is G.R. Tomaini? Colonel Tomaini describes himself as a systematic philosopher, writer, and artist, with an impressive educational background and apparent relationships with several well-known political thinkers. We'll spend some time connecting that experience to the position he's seeking and what it might mean for his approach to public service. Tomaini ties much of his motivation to his experiences with elite universities like Harvard and Princeton, which he says reflect a broader corruption of American merit by global money and political favoritism. His ongoing whistleblower effort, which he calls #PrincetonGate, alleges systemic misconduct within those institutions and connects to what he sees as a bipartisan culture of silence in Washington. That brings us to one of the central questions for tonight. Why is he running? And what does he hope to accomplish by taking this fight to the U.S. Senate? Politically, Mr. Tomaini identifies as a democratic-socialist, though he previously affiliated with the Republican Party. He has his reasons for doing so, and I have at least a few questions to clarify the implications. For his platform, he presents a single guiding axiom: the American citizen has been systematically bankrupted by a corrupt bipartisan cartel. We should certainly spend some time unpacking exactly what he means by that. And from that axiom, his platform has a theme with several goals: a 21st-century New Deal-style socialism, universal reparations for all historically and currently disenfranchised groups, modern monetary theory-based spending to fund public priorities without austerity, a federal job guarantee, universal single-payer healthcare, full student debt cancellation, and aggressive oversight of what he calls billionaires in sheep's clothing. The elite university endowments he alleges operate like unregulated hedge funds. His platform and experiences present a lot to unpack, so we'll get started today. I'm sure there is a lot to unpack from other candidates as well. So to reiterate in conclusion, the time to start is sooner rather than later. With that, let's welcome Colonel G.R. Tomaini, candidate for the United States Senate from New Jersey. What's up?
Cheers. Thank you, Steve. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to show up. I know everybody has a busy life with lots of things that they got to do. You seem like a prolific author and poet, and I have absolutely no idea what your schedule looks like.
Well, you know what? In terms of being so prolific, for the past 3 years in a row, I had 3 books come out every year.
Oh, wow.
But then this year, all of a sudden, I wrote no books, barely any poems and barely any artwork. And I'll tell you what, that was just focusing on this nightmarish labyrinth of federal cases that became PrincetonGate.
Sure.
And so that is totally taken up. I've had to learn, I do all this pro bono legal work on my own behalf, and so on and so forth. But to learn about the federal government in ways it's been a beautiful exercise in practice and learning about how the federal government works. I've noticed some things, for example, the Inspector General's offices aren't as strong as they used to be in comparison to how they were prior to the Trump administration, slashing at certain...
do you mean they're not as fully staffed?
There used to be 77 of them, Inspector General. Basically, it's a wonderful department. It's a branch of any federal government agency. I've had dealings with the Department of Justice Office of the Inspector General and the Office of the Inspector General with the U.S. Postal Service. And 2 referrals from each one. The DOJ Inspector General referred my case to the FBI, I believe it. But, yeah, so basically the Inspector General's offices just there's like a chief auditing entity that you can report abusive misbehavior, something like that, anything like that. And I'm not perfectly certain what the current number is, but there used to be 77, and I know a lot of them don't exist anymore. Like the Department of Ed, of course, like most of that department was slashed.
Yeah. So why don't we back up for a second? And I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about that case as it comes up, but I want to make sure we're setting the direction for a campaign interview,
Right.
as direct and straightforward as we can. So one thing I heard this past year, I went to Bob Morgan Entertainment, and the candidate Stephen Fulop,
Right.
who
I
was
know
in the
him.
primary. Yeah, you heard of him?
Yeah. I have a friend. It's a friend on LinkedIn. All of a sudden.
Okay, yeah, cool. So when I went to his meet and greet, he framed the campaign process as like a job interview.
Yeah.
You're applying for a job, U.S. Senate. The voters are the hiring managers. This is sort of like an interview. So what, from your background as like an author, a poet, your education, all that, is there any way that you can frame that as directly preparing you for a senatorial role?
Oh, sure. Well, when I got started at Rutgers University in 2014, I started to take all these graduate seminars in philosophy and political science. I got to meet Drusilla Cornell, who was one of the most wonderful teachers I ever had. She was the Caucasian lady who joined the Black Panthers and so on. She was just such a force of nature. At any rate, she encouraged me to take some classes with the United Nations program at Rutgers. So that was the beginning of it. I love international advocacy. It got me into immigration law, working pro bono for...
Was that more of like a theoretical thing, or was that like an applied?
That was actually through the United Nations program.
Oh, so it was actually
Rutgers,
with
if
the
I'm not
UN.
mistaken, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
It had a United Nations master's program, and I always said, well, I don't want to do the master's, but I'll take the classes as an undergrad.
Sure.
But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that's still ongoing at Rutgers, New
Okay.
Brunswick. So anyhow, that's how I got my first taste of international law and advocacy. And then me and my friend were sophomores at Rutgers, and we were sitting in class with some ambassador from an African country.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally a thought above our pay grade at the time.
Yeah, sure. Everything feels above my pay grade all the time. Anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead.
But yeah. So and then a couple of years later, I went to seminary, a Union Theological Seminary. It's perhaps the most leftist, liberal, open-minded seminary in the world, if not the country. I don't know, maybe there's one in Europe that's more, I don't know about Oxford theology. But, so anyway, that's where I got to meet Cornel West. And he just finished his presidential campaign for 2020. 2024, that's right. He got...
So what kind of classes did you take with him?
I took literature. I took African American political thought with Cornel West.
Okay.
Yeah, I took 5 classes with him.
Mm-hmm.
I took theology, Dietrich Bonhoeffer and James Baldwin. That was a really fun class.
Okay.
Then there was one on she taught at Princeton. Toni Morrison.
Oh,
She won
okay.
the Nobel. She won the Nobel Prize. He was very close to Toni Morrison, but they got into some fights over Barack Obama toward the end, or a little controversy.
Oh, I don't know.
Just Dr. West is very public about his criticisms of him, Mr. President Obama, being a little bit acting presidentorially. That's the proper phrase for it. I just mean to say that he authorized drone strikes,
Sure,
military strikes, and there's a certain kind of pacifists will look at that and say, "What are you doing?"
Right.
Yeah.
That's not the peacetime
The peacetime
that we're looking for. So then it sounds like to me some of the classes you took were directly related to politics.
Yeah.
And so you're coming in with an informed sort of educational, pedagogical background with it. But you're still quite young. Are you 29?
29.
Okay, I thought I saw that
declared when
online.
I was 28, though.
No, but what I'm saying though is
Yeah.
sometimes people look young and maybe you have more of a...
I just shaved my beard, dude.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, I was thinking about doing the same thing.
I was
I'm
trying to
getting
best grade how
bushy.
young I am, but a little older.
But it sounds like not very much direct political experience, but you have had time through the UN to learn, and you've had political classes at school.
And that well, I've been lobbying politicians for quite some time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
In a
Okay.
way, not but like lobbying, I generated a bill. I wrote a bill
Oh, okay.
some number of months ago. I put together the Right to Serve Act.
Okay.
That was about, for example, in my case, because I was on antidepressant from when my mother passed away. 2 years ago, I was ineligible for military service.
Oh.
So that became, I said, well, that sounds kind of, I'll just as my political opinion on the subject, I think that's absurd. I don't think the Chinese are making that mistake of turning away perfectly good candidates.
Yeah, that does bring up a good point.
Yeah.
Where is the threshold of you're going through like a normal depressive state versus maybe somebody who's like incapacitated through depression or something like that?
Yeah.
So you wrote up that bill. Did it?
Well, I sent it to the local congressman, and then I didn't press it too hard because, well, sometimes lobbying can be about politeness, and if you know what I mean by not. If it's not the best fit for that person, it's not the best fit for that person.
Oh yeah, you gotta pitch.
You have to see which puzzle piece fits where.
Basic sales, right? Like you sell to the person who actually wants the product.
It had gone out of fashion. I thought because there were some early critiques in the Trump administration against, for example, transgender participation in the military, or something like that, which I comprehend as a complicated issue. But the thing is, I don't. On the similar vein, I think. There are people with even chronic depression who don't necessarily need to undergo arms training, you know what I mean, to perform a necessary function in the military. I think, if there's somebody sitting in an intelligence office in Langley or somewhere else, most of them aren't going to see live fire ever.
Right. So you're saying there's plenty of room to put people in proper positions?
Yeah. I 100% am for that. I think the way I calculated it was that if we were to let most of the people who want to join the military but are barred for some spurious reason, if we were allow them to join, there would never need to be another draft in the history of this country.
Yeah, you're saying that the will is already out there. Just find a proper way to use it.
Yeah. And there's plenty of people, in an economy, a microeconomy where there's not so much labor or job options, so then somebody who could have been a soldier is now reduced to doing what? Not reduced, but they're not living out their best life, their best means and capabilities.
What they feel is their purpose.
Yeah.
Cool. So then we covered your educational background, and then there was another angle.
So I went to seminary, so that's funny. I could have been ordained. Oh. But I'm going to be ordained a deacon in January.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
With First Presbyterian Church in Princeton.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm still on the fence about wanting to get ordained. Just because I don't know if that's necessarily it's not that it's a calling I don't see myself being able to perform. It's more so, I think it's a very personal, private relationship with God or so on and so
Your
forth.
Spiritual faith and all that.
Well, tell you what shook me up was going to seminary and seeing some of the other folks in seminary. Like, it's a little bit concerning that some people can't talk to someone before popping a Xanax.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
I think I know what you mean by that. How are you going to run a
church if you can't make eye contact with somebody without popping a Xanax? This is in seminary. You're like,
so this is some of your boots on the ground experience, seeing what happened.
Too in a nursing home. That was a very touching thing. A low-income nursing home in East Harlem for 3 years, for one summer. But I learned a lot through that. It was certainly more on the ground.
I always find that you can have a certain idea of how something might be in your head, but then once you get there and you see how things actually operate, that's when you really gain the experience. I thought playing my guitar for a living would be fantastic, and then you're at bars until 3 or 4 a.m. every night, and you're like, this guy, I'm getting too old for this. Not everything is always as it seems. But then moving on, you also said in our correspondence that, quote unquote, my entire candidacy is an exercise in radical forensic transparency. Now, between me and you, because we've talked for a while, I kind of know what that means, but could you explain that story to the audience?
The transparency with respect to PrincetonGate?
Well, you said in the correspondence that the candidacy is
just because everything that it's all about is about it became at first a question for accountability, and then at this point it's a demand. I mean, for all of the political figures who became involved in this mess, for all of them to whether ignore it coincidentally, which protects their friend from Princeton or something like that.
Why don't we back up for a second? Sure. So what happened? Yeah. So that the audience knows like the story.
Sure. So I applied to Princeton University's Department of Comparative Literature, and I was told I was a shoo-in candidate by the graduate admissions director and so on and so forth. And having an awareness of my application merits, I agreed with her. Well, I didn't, that part wasn't up for debate. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so then push comes to shove. I didn't get an interview, and so I said, whatever. Each department's different, and then, but it wasn't like I was not a disgruntled applicant when this all went down. So anyway, and then I was rejected ultimately. I was told I had to schedule a phone call with Dr. Claudia Brodsky, who's now been put on academic leave. It's by Princeton University, which seems to me whistleblower retaliation. I have a phone call with her. It was 72 minutes long. I recorded it. It's legally obtained within the state of New Jersey. At any rate, she revealed some deeply troubling things that I think are basically true of most university admissions committees across the country, but certainly were true in this case.
Let me just a point of clarification. So you didn't get the application interview, no. And then you have this follow-up phone call.
She granted me a personal, because I was to work with her, so it was more of an intimate.
So I'm missing like why.
Well,
why wouldn't the application process have stopped right after the interview was not granted?
No. It would be perhaps 15 days spanned in between.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Was the follow-up phone call just part of the procedure?
The phone call was me having her giving me some insight into the application process.
But you just requested that explanation?
Yeah, I requested that after the fact.
Okay, gotcha.
But it turned into this whole thing. When I recorded it, and then all of a sudden I started doing my research, and there's like 26 violations altogether, like 13 violations of federal law, 12 violations of state law, First and 14th Amendment violations because they didn't like the contents of my thought, and then they said my application was it was the best writing sample in the pool of 118 applicants, but they rejected because it had too much thought content.
What does that even mean?
Too smart for Princeton? What are these people talking about? But then it became clear that they were also ignoring Cornel West's raving recommendation letter for me. He's the most prominent African-American professor in the country. I mean, in philosophy of race and all that. There's nobody. He's like a W.E.B. Du Bois walking. He's had his own problems at Harvard a couple of times. But anyway,
just to clarify, did they ever explain what they meant by too much thought content?
Oh no, Princeton's gone completely. It's called stonewalling.
Okay, sure.
So Princeton has not in the head. This is interesting. So I have this audio, and I'm very well behaved. I've not lashed out at Princeton really in any way. Compared, some people go ballistic, and you know what I mean, like they go off. I've been very genteel with them, all things considered. But at any rate, so then after 6 months of the head lawyer of Princeton, Ramona Romero, not responding, she's a member of the Obama administration, by the way. This lady, not a very high level one, but she was General Counsel of the Secretary of Agriculture.
Okay, sure.
But still, she was confirmed by the Senate. So Mr. Obama had to sign off on it somewhere. Anyway, so I filed a complaint with her to the Bar Association, the Office of Attorney Ethics, which is where lawyers get in trouble. At the worst, they get disbarred. She was not to be disbarred. It was probably some little reprimand.
Sure.
But then the plot thickens because the Office of Attorney Ethics refuses to investigate. They don't check the evidence, and one business day later, they send me a declination letter. Like, we're not even bothering with this. I said, all right. So then I submitted an appeal. Once I started complaining to the governor about it, Governor Murphy. No, this was about 6 months ago, maybe July, something like that. So I'm complaining to Governor Murphy, And then I was CCing the head lawyer at Princeton, Ramona or Romero, and she accidentally hits reply all. And it turns out she was forwarding my emails to 4 top executives at Princeton, and she wrote more from this person, and was not. The more from this person proves one thing, that they already knew about it, and that they have an internal file on it.
Right.
And her forwarding it to those 4 people proves that it's kind of a high-level cover-up. They want why would those 4 executives be getting that email if not if internal cover-up measures weren't being taken? Like, let's brush up the so on. And then she gets put on academic leave, coincidentally, Dr. Claudia Brodsky. And it's a little bit too.
All right, so going back to that phone call you recorded.
Yeah.
What were can you explain what the actual violations were?
Yeah, I can, there's a lot of them. I can pull it up.
Or just like briefly, because we want to go over your platform and all that kind of stuff. If you can just, a couple of examples of what.
Well, it had to do with, they were basically, the most jarring thing was there was a kind of blanket ban on all white students.
Ooh.
All European language students, that's how they put it.
European language
students. And you Google
students.
that, I did that, my research on that. It was like 46 European countries and 225 languages that are blanket European languages.
Right.
That year.
That's a lot of people.
And it's a lot considering. And then you break down the Princeton endowment. It's $35 billion. Probably most of it's dead white people's money. And then, on the one hand, being used to fund white people not getting into institutions. But I'm not concerned about the color so much, because when I think about the endowment, it seems to me that it's mostly, probably was based off of profiteering off of the Native American genocide. The people in that time period who were donating, we're talking about hundreds of millions of people were dispossessed of their property and their land, their rights and all that, and so on and so forth.
So you're basically connecting it to a multi-generational institution that's just sort of arbitrarily applying rules and stuff.
Yeah, in a way that a French philosopher, Michel Foucault, might like to look at it. It's sort of similar to that. What's the power relation going on here?
Right.
And who would these people at Princeton, they're kind of low-level puppets when you think about, the president of Princeton is kind of a fundraiser, and then there's a head lawyer, and then there's a board consisting of like the powerful people, and then other than that, what is it, that $35 billion, who owns that $35 billion endowment?
Right.
Because it's certainly not the Princeton undergraduates. So I'm sorry if anybody didn't know that. You know what I mean? But it's not the people getting paid $700,000 a year, which is what they're getting paid. I saw they released all their tax information online, and they didn't. This became a big point of issue for why I became an SEC whistleblower. Was an IRS whistleblower, was because they didn't report that there was any impending federal problem, federal lawsuit, anything like that, in their latest budgetary update to their bondholders. That's a big deal. Likewise, there's no reported this in the New Jersey state budget that was released, which could be the New Jersey case is just more so to point out somebody in Governor Murphy's office should have put this on file, or certainly it's going to be more seriously for him, but he's on his way out anyway. I hope Mikey Sherrill will take this more seriously than he did, because I'll be damned. So did you know that the governor of New Jersey sits on the Princeton Board of Trustees ex officio? I didn't know that.
I learned all sorts of things doing this work.
I bet.
And that's one for the books.
It was a really cool technicality I learned, because I had dealt with 6 months of Governor Murphy's office telling me there's nothing he can do about PrincetonGate. And he's on the Board of Trustees.
Right. Like he has no idea what's going on or how to figure something out. So that means
that a member of the board has been briefed on this for 6 months, which means that it's non-disclosure to their bondholders. If the Trump administration does ultimately decide to crack down, I mean, you figure everything they've been doing to Harvard and Columbia, it would make sense if they did that.
Yeah, follow through.
But who knows what they'll do.
So then, are you saying that part of your campaign is to just raise awareness of this issue?
raise awareness of this issue, but then at the same time, from everything I've learned about politics and federal politics, through this, it's that the people in office are kind of turning a blind eye to things. I mean, I guess that happens when people are elected and they get comfortable in office, and they feel the pressure pulls of who's got the hooks in them, like, certain donors of this caste of the society vote this way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus this way. And I think, to be honest with you, when people kept telling me just find a lawyer before I went federal about this case.
Mm-hmm.
And just find a local lawyer for a civil suit. And it's turned out to be a much more expensive federal suit where the whistleblower awards involved exceed $50 million in whistleblower awards.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's wild. But anyways, a civil suit could be, some kind of reward too, but I'm not interested in it for the money, to be honest with you. So it's just more so the accountability. How can they masquerade as this bastion of this university upon a hill, you know what I mean, the shining a beacon of light, number one in the country, if they can't even respond to a civil rights complaint for 11 months.
Right.
We're talking about, that's about how long it's been now, 11 months of them ignoring it, but then being caught knowing about it with the reply all email.
Right.
And to have the smoking gun evidence of the Brodsky audio. I don't understand. It just seems like they're playing tic-tac-toe to, meanwhile, the government is out to get universities at this point in time.
Right.
So it seems, I don't know, maybe they've got it all safe. I don't know if they got back channel deals, but they seem to be a little bit too casual about. And number one, I don't care if there wasn't a Trump administration being aggressive with higher ed. I'm just trying to say, even under the Biden administration, this is when, before Trump was elected, this kind of was going on. I was writing to them anyway. They should have been. Is it too hard to be righteous or to be accountable?
Right. Sure.
That's why I also say ethics.
I say that a lot, doing what I do. It's just at what point are we going to sit down and acknowledge things happened and try to make them right? Yeah. So yeah. I totally get that. So then let's move on to the platform stuff. So in your correspondence, you said that your campaign's core axiom is the American citizen has been systematically bankrupted by a corrupt bipartisan cartel. Can you unpack that?
Yeah. So what I mean by that is that, and this I think it was probably in the notes somewhere, but if you break down the math, it used to be in the 1950s that one person in the household could work and they could afford a mortgage on a house, they could own 2 cars, they could raise maybe 2-3 kids. And that was just the guy had to work. And I'm not saying whatever, that's the good status quo, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying that why does everybody, now if you fast forward to 2024, everybody in the damn house has to work and nobody owns the home they rent. Mm-hmm. And there's maybe one car with a... Hey,
you could use a 50-year mortgage, right? Have you heard that yet?
Oh yeah, well, you mean my student loan mortgage?
No,
I mean,
I think that's one of the new proposals from the Trump administration.
I'll tell you, I don't have student loans at this point. I have a student mortgage.
Oh yeah, sure.
I have $140,000 worth of student loans.
Yeah.
And for Joe Biden to talk about $10,000 off, I beg your pardon, maybe $100,000 off. But then there are people who have $300,000 from law school and stuff like that. And maybe it's their fault they went to an expensive law school.
Yeah.
Personally, I didn't know my seminary was going to cost as much as it did. Mm-hmm. I came out of Rutgers with a nice $18,000. So I was a resident assistant.
State school.
Yeah.
There you go. So you've got a lot of education and you've racked up your debt and you're relating it to...
I have a debt to pay.
Yeah. And you're relating it to... the general cost of living in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So then, let's see. Your general theme is to propose a New Deal style socialism.
Yeah.
Maybe for the audience who may not be super familiar with the New Deal, could you explain what that was a little bit and then relate it to your modern idea of it?
Well, sure. I guess... So New Deal style, Franklin Roosevelt style socialism is what I believe that's what family values are all about. It's not necessarily about communism, something like that. Socialism is what like Bernie Sanders was arguing for, and what I mean to say, it's about social values. My professor Drusilla Cornell, in studying indigenous philosophy and political philosophy in South Africa, she used to talk about the African concept of Ubuntu, which is spelled is a curious
U-B-U-N-T-U.
Yeah, that's right.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, I like Ubuntu. It brings back good memories. But basically, the idea is we're all part of a social web network. Now I sound like Mr. Zuckerberg. We're part of a social web where it's interactive and it's mutually interactive, and it's all one. It's very quantum in a way. That what moves the pebble here moves the pebble there.
Sure.
But we're all interrelated beings. It's not just that we're needful beings, as Karl Marx says, but we all have needs. And I think that looking after each other in such a way and expecting there to be certain safety nets is basically what the mayor of New York was calling for. Man, damn me, I'm glad he got elected. Yeah.
So are you basically describing you're looking for general welfare type social programs, and is that differentiated from like the traditional definition of socialism, where we start implying like the workers control the means of production as opposed to the other way around?
I was so in love with some of these questions where people ask, what happens once the socialists win? You know what I mean? What is supposed to, these questions of utopia, questions of what comes after. And for me, Rosa Luxemburg was somebody who was, she was in Germany. She was between World War I and World War II. And just shortly after World War I, they were in power. She was murdered, like slaughtered, shot and thrown in the river. My professor, Drusilla Cornell, loved Rosa Luxemburg. At any rate, that kind of socialism, I think we need to start asking questions about what does it mean relevant to utopia. What is our state when we talk about economics, about production, modes of production, and how people are active and what their activities are? Are they at their optimal rate? Are they doing the optimal things at the optimal time? Is everything coordinated in the best possible way? And I think that by encouraging more audits, such as one of my favorite things I've learned in the federal government is a GAO. Have you heard of that?
I have. It's been a while.
Office. I love
yeah,
that
sure,
office.
sure.
If people don't know about it, it's never taught to me in any of my classes on government.
Really?
Anywhere. And politics.
I read that over the summer somewhere in one of the
it's the
long rabbit holes I went down.
It's the auditing branch of U.S. Congress. And it's a powerful, powerful audit. Sometimes you might say, like we were talking about inspector generals before, if you want to get an inspector general's office involved, that spells trouble. And they're kind of, if you're a manager, for example, FBI or something like that, and you get an inspector general referral, yeah, they're going to be concerned. If it's a GAO investigation, then it's like, God.
Big deal.
Yeah. But it's kind of a funny thing to like tease somebody. Like, I don't want to have to have a GAO investigation.
Sure.
Like, when dealing with the feds.
Well, I wouldn't want anybody auditing me from the government at all. The IRS apparently has a problem keeping track of my birthday, so I don't want to have to deal with that.
They said it must be some problem with my somebody must have filed some fake return 3 years ago.
Oh yeah.
It said something like my projected return was $400,000, and I said, am I a billionaire I didn't know about? You know what I mean? Like, how the hell would somebody have a $400,000 return?
right. That's insane. Yeah.
I was like, and this was publicly on the.
I went to some pretty expensive business lunches that I wrote off. Anyway, but yeah. So circling back, are we talking about more towards just social welfare programs, so that safety nets, or are we talking about like a variation of Karl Marx's original ideas?
Returning it to the New Deal, in terms of John Maynard Keynes' philosophy of economics, where he's talking about, if you think of the stages of development of a seed to flower, we want to get it's a flower state perpetually, where it's beautiful, you know what I mean, or where the most energy is produced, whatever yield we're looking for, we want to perpetuate and optimalize. We want to perpetuate optimalization. And at the same time, always be looking out for the next best thing. That's my personal philosophy, as I've written in the encyclopedia and so on, but also my Tractatus. But anyway, so yeah, optimalization, it's just about making sure that people can do their best what they want to do, and do it at the best that they can do it where they are, in terms of location and all that, and assume that there's no obstacles, because I've met so many people who are very talented folks who were never able to accomplish their destinies, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because of some little limitation or some
unnecessary roadblock.
Now, one thing I will say about the student debt crisis is that it's a very good thing in terms of principles, that everybody should have maximum ability to go to, you know what I mean, up to $250,000 to be able to take out to go to school for whatever you want. I agree with that, but we need to figure out why the costs have been inflated so much, because CUNY,
I would totally agree with that.
CUNY, City University of New York, is like $30,000 for a complete 4-year undergrad degree or a JD. So why is Harvard, NYU $300,000 for the same price?
Because it's a fancy Gucci belt type philosophy. I would guess. I wouldn't purchase that type of
I didn't realize my seminary was some kind, I don't know what, maybe it's not even quite Gucci or Balenciaga, it's probably like I don't know, it's another brand.
A different off-brand
but it's
kind of
expensive
thing.
Still, I gather. I know, But.
So then you also, in reference to our socialism talk, you said that you're happy with Mamdani winning.
Yeah.
And he is part of the Democratic-Socialists of America type thing. And in our correspondence, I believe you said you switched from Republican Party to the DSA?
I'm going to be running Democrat, but Democratic-Socialist, like Bernie Sanders a little bit.
Okay, so is the DSA different than Democrat-Socialist? Because I'm fairly certain Mamdani is DSA.
He's
right?
DSA, yeah.
Right. So is what you're doing different, or is it the same?
I mean, so that I can challenge Booker in the Democratic primaries.
Okay, so you'll definitely be a Democrat.
Yeah.
But not necessarily DSA.
No, and I think that comes with more. That has its own party politics.
Right, because I went down that rabbit hole, and there's all sorts of stuff in there.
Yeah, there's all different kinds. At this point, I would say I like, economically speaking, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, although she has a history, maybe we'll talk about that someday. But her and my professor know each other very well through Priscilla Cornell from when they were professors at University of Pennsylvania Law School. Senator Warren used to be a Republican.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's a Reaganite.
Well, I guess things change. The world is always in flux.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we cleared that up. So you also proposed in your platform universal reparations.
Yeah.
You want to unpack that a bit?
You know, people get hung up on that word reparations. And I think by reparations, we're talking about, in terms of theology, I like to think about karma or karmic debt or something like that. You think if dozens of millions of people in a country are dealing with a kind of psychological karmic, I don't mean to get into it, it's not like I'm talking about spirituality. If they're dealing with this psychological thing that's real trauma, that people used to be enslaved in this country, that's one. And then people used to be Native Americans, God, there used to be 200 million of them. Now, what are they, like 3 million, something like that? That's obscene. That's the worst genocide in world history, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe there's been, whether it's poisoning them with, a lot more of it was more than just poisoning with smallpox blankets. But anyway, and then there's plenty of people who come down through history with the last names of conquistadors. You know, where did those come from? From lots of slaughter and devastation, and unfortunately a lot of that had to do with the taking away of Columbus Day. personally, as an Italian American, I have some Arabic and Jewish too, German, British, so on. But I wouldn't have minded to see the Columbus Day kept, but on a separate day, or perhaps, and make room for both Indigenous Day and the Italian Day. Mm-hmm. Maybe it doesn't have to be about Columbus.
Yeah.
But
so then, what would your reparations plan sort of look like?
Sure. Well, that one I've been developing a little bit more. That's it, sort of very much in just talk. The more we talk about and flesh it out. Some people have talked about lump sum payments. I'm talking about more so infrastructural alterations, like guarantees that are sort of already a little bit in place for Native Americans to have full funded access to higher education, stuff like that. Okay. But structural infrastructural guarantees, perhaps that it behooves everybody, and we're not just thinking about it's not just reparations for people in the past. We want to make sure to pay due diligence to people in the future too, where we want someone to be born into, for all these people, for pro-life folks, which is a very noble principle behind that, for reverence for life. You figure, once the life gets here, what's it supposed to, there has to be infrastructure that's accommodating, and it has to be worth living. Mm-hmm.
So what would the examples of that infrastructure look like?
I wouldn't mind to see more beautification projects.
Okay.
But that's not over and above, for example, the targeting of homeless populations. I think those people need to be taken good care of. It's supposed to be the richest country in the world. I don't know about that anymore.
Sure.
I thought to myself the other day, how long has that been a lie?
Mm-hmm. Well, we pay a lot for things, but I don't know if that makes us rich.
Oh, I know, yeah.
So you want to work on beautification projects?
Just anywhere that we can, optimization projects, just optimizing, making better, making it the best capacity.
Okay, so helping people and communities reach their full potential type stuff.
Yeah, and I would like to see, part of this is a national movement, part of it's also an internationalist movement, where I struggle with to the difference between the two. I don't mean I don't understand them. I just mean I'm a nationalist and an internationalist and a localist. And I care about Bridgeton as much as I care about the state, as much the county, as much as it's like in biology where they teach all the different family, genus, species, all that.
Sure. And also your sphere of influences and all that kind of stuff. Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then moving on, you also proposed a federal job guarantee in your correspondence. What does that look like?
I think that, so returning to the New Deal politics, the New Deal socialism I was proposing before, the Keynesian logic behind it is that the government can be doing, anytime you drive around, not just Bridgeton, but at most New Jersey, most of the roads can be paved better. It's not about spending money on nonsense. It's about making sure more people are employed. The government can bolster that, not artificially inflate, but bolster, and keep everybody working optimally. And eventually, maybe we'll see. Who knows what utopia could bring? But perhaps it looks better than a 9-to-5. What was that book? That bullshit job.
Oh, I don't know that one.
You know what I mean? It's he was an anthropologist who's a little bit prominent. David Graeber.
Okay.
Bullshit job. But I don't mean by that. There's no job that's inherently. I just think when I'm saying there's no human being that it's not without inherent dignity. And some of these jobs, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense for a person. Now that we've got.
So you're basically saying you want to guarantee that every person has a job, so that they have purpose and can contribute.
Well, that doesn't seem like it's not just psychologically beneficial for everyone to be employed or to have some national basic income or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's not as if other countries haven't done that. And then what we see is when people are allowed to when people have that free time to do what they really want to do, and they're bolstered by, look at all the people who are trust fund babies, like, oh, so-and-so is written all these beautiful books, travel logs. Look at what flourishes when it's not just about I need to focus on this to make my meal ticket versus
Right. Yeah, it's sort of like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs type thing.
Yeah,
you have your basics covered.
That becomes a question of who really has access to freedom. If you're struggling with debt, if you're struggling raising your kids, if you're struggling thinking about all these horrible bills you have. And one of my good friends I play bingo with, sounds funny. Yeah. But he's got nothing but bills in his retirement.
Right. And, it almost sounds like you ever watch Rick and Morty?
A little bit.
Oh, okay. There's one episode where the grandpa, he's describing some world that he created in an alternate dimension. And he basically describes our current economic system. And then the grandson says to him, "Oh, that sounds like slavery with more steps."
It's wild.
It does feel that way from time to time.
Marx would probably have said more than that if he was to be. It's I'll say this, but one thing that majorly concerns me is that the student debt crisis. Did you know that if you were to take the endowment money of every single university in the country, it wouldn't be enough to pay off the total student loan debt?
Wait, say that again?
If you took the endowment money of every single college in the United States of America.
Yeah.
So we're talking about not just the Ivy Leagues, but every university in the country, every community college in the country. If you had pooled all that money in a bank account, it would not be enough to cover the student debt crisis.
Oh, wow.
So it's a truly gargantuan number.
Right. And it stops making sense at that point.
It stops making sense at that point. It's something else to be added to the deficit.
Yeah.
And for them to pretend it's all well and good, they're making $300,000 a year, and sometimes more of them in stock valuations.
What do you mean?
I just saw one about, Comrade Pelosi.
Oh, yeah?
But she's 16,000% returns.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yes.
Cool.
Cheers.
So we've got about 3 minutes left. Do you have any final thoughts you want to get in before we wrap up the hour?
Sure. So so I was joking around before about my title, Colonel. I've been using that kind of playfully, but also seriously. It's a serious title. It's not as if you can just pay $10 for it online or something. A friend of mine nominated me for it in a different state, and then it went through a selection committee. The Secretary of State of Kentucky had to approve it, then the governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, had to sign it. And he's more popular than I realized. He's very popular, apparently.
Cool.
I was like, that's cool, yeah. So
it is very
happy.
cool.
I'm
I wish one of my friends would nominate me for something
perhaps I should nominate you then. But no, I'm having fun with it. It's kind of like you can, in all this federal forms, they ask you, what is your prefix, your title, or whatever.
Colonel.
Just the one, yeah, for the Colonel.
I send people off into battle. That's what it sounds like.
Well, that's what my Senate committee, now that my Senate campaign election committee, is the Stars and Stripes Battalion. Because it's going to take a battalion and it's going to take a colonel.
There you go. You're the man for the job, I guess.
Yeah, send in the colonel.
Maybe that should be your campaign slogan.
I have this meme I made, send in the colonel.
So we've got that, and we're getting ready for a long campaign season.
I know, yeah. It's just getting started.
You have 11 months of
earlier than
stamina.
most people, didn't I? I mean...
What?
I started way earlier than most people, but I figured because if I was going to be a candidate, because not have jumping from one position, I figured I may as well get started early.
Well, yeah. I cannot stress enough how smart a move I think it is for you to get in contact with someone like me. And for everybody out there listening with different opinions about my coverage, it doesn't have to come through me. Just start early. Get the message out there. Make it coherent so people can read it over and review it and make their choices, because we're supposed to be living in a democratically elected constitutional federal republic, which includes democratic processes such as universal suffrage, where we all pretend like our voices matter. So I appreciate the effort.
Cheers.
That was my little rant for the end of the show. But anyway... G.R. Tomaini, Colonel G.R. Tomaini. Yeah, thanks for taking the time, getting communication started early, and showing up. For average people like me, it's very helpful to get an idea early on of what's going on.
Cheers, sir. It's been a pleasure. And to everyone listening, it's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with you.
Cool. All right, guys. We'll see you next week on Inform the Vote NJ Radio Hour. Bye.
When your home needs a new floor, trust Highland Carpet to do the job right. Highland Carpet's professional installers will install the best name brand carpets, hardwood, laminate, or luxury vinyl planking at a great cost. Satisfaction is guaranteed. Visit our showroom, our website, or call today to see what Highland Carpet has to offer you.